Carolina Reaper peppers are way too spicy. For the average person, they're too spicy to eat on their own, and cooking with them requires a lot of ventilation. Because of this, using Carolina Reapers in the kitchen can be kind of a challenge. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a delicious hot sauce using one of the hottest peppers on earth. I'm going to ferment Carolina Reapers along with some other veggies to help tame their flavor and spice down a bit. And don't be misled, because this hot sauce is still insanely spicy, but it's a lot more tolerable than if you were to pulse the peppers up raw or roast them in your kitchen. And if you've never fermented anything before, I really encourage you to try, because it's honestly super fun and it's very easy as long as you have a good recipe to follow. For this recipe, you'll need 8 ounces of carrots, 1 sweet onion, 4 cloves of garlic, 1 thumb of peeled ginger, 2 tablespoons of lime juice, and a handful of hot peppers. And if you follow us on social media at all, you may have seen that I overwintered a Carolina Reaper plant, and these pods are actually from that plant. So I have 5 small Reaper pods here, which weighed out to be about 1 ounce, and that's more than enough for this recipe, but you certainly could tailor it more to your spice preference. The first thing you're gonna do is slice up all of your veggies nice and thin, and this is gonna be pureed after the fermentation process. I did rough chop the Carolina Reaper peppers because I don't want them too small, because we don't want them floating to the top. And next, you're gonna make your brine. Essentially, this is what prevents the harmful bacteria from growing while also allowing the beneficial bacteria to thrive. It also helps to enhance the flavors during the fermentation process. So for this brine, you'll need 2 cups of unchlorinated water and 20 grams of salt. And this works out to be 4 teaspoons of salt, but it is always best to weigh your salt when you're fermenting, because different salts have different densities. It's important that you don't use tap water, because the chlorine can actually interfere with the fermentation process. So we like to use spring water whenever we're fermenting. And I am using Himalayan pink salt, which only has 1 ingredient. You want to stay away from using iodized salt or anything that may have extra ingredients. So I'm adding my salt to my warm unchlorinated water and giving it a good stir. And it is worth noting that this brine is on the higher end of salinity, so I'm not worried about it being unsafe. I have a 32-ounce jar here, and I'm gonna add all my veggies in along with the lime juice and give it a good shake so that all the veggies are coated. Then you're gonna pour the brine all over the veggies, making sure that all the veggies are fully submerged. And you may have a little bit of extra brine at the end, but it's better to have too much than not enough. It's also important to make sure that the salt is completely dissolved and that all the veggies are completely covered with the brine during the fermentation process. And they do make purpose-built fermentation weights, which is great for this. You don't have to use them, but they're really good if you're new to fermenting, because they help keep all the veggies submerged underneath the brine. So I am gonna use a fermentation weight for this batch. I'm also using a special fermentation lid for this, and these are awesome. They fit on standard ball jars, but you definitely don't have to use one of these. You can use a regular lid, but if you do, it's very important that every couple of days you burp the ferment and allow any CO2 to escape. And to burp a ferment, all you're doing is quickly unscrewing the lid to allow any gas to escape and then resealing it. But with these lids, you don't have to do any burping at all. You just screw it on and it allows gas to escape without letting anything in. Another important tip is to label your ferments when you're making them so you don't lose track of the date. So that's all there is to the first step of this recipe, and I'm gonna let this ferment in a dark place for at least 10 days, but probably closer to 2 weeks. And the ideal temperature is around 68 degrees Fahrenheit, but room temperature is good. You just don't want it to be too hot or too cold. And you can leave this in any dark place like a pantry. So let's check back in a couple weeks. The day is finally here. I'm back 13 days later with my ferment, and it looks and smells really, really good. So here are some progress shots of how it looked during its fermentation journey, and it's always really fun to watch a ferment start coming alive and bubbling up. A lot of people are really hesitant to play around with fermentation because they don't want to risk spoilage. But if you do have a ferment that has gone bad, you'll notice things like fuzzy mold on the top or a really bad foul smell. But remember, ferments are supposed to smell a little bit funky, but not rancid. When you're fermenting veggies, you may also notice cloudiness or sediment floating around or calm yeast, but all of these things are completely normal and safe to eat. So that being said, I'm super excited to blend this up and try it. And first, I'm just gonna grab the fermentation weight out of there. The aroma is so much more powerful than when we started, and it has a fresh tanginess. It almost smells like pickles. It's gonna taste great. I'm gonna blend all of the veggies and the brine together until it's nice and smooth. So in the blender we go. That's not the button. All right, that looks really good. I'm going to strain the sauce into this container so it's nice and splashy. Now I am going to bottle half of this sauce up raw, and the other, ooh, Carolina Reapers. And the other half I'm going to experiment with a little bit to see what Calvin thinks of the flavor. Half of the sauce I'm actually gonna cook down and add a little bit of honey for sweetness to compare the flavors side by side. And you certainly don't have to cook your fermented sauces depending on what your end goals are, but we find that it drastically changes the flavor and the consistency of the sauce. And if you wanna keep the sauce raw and you feel like it's too thin, you can always add a little bit of the pulp back into the strained sauce. All right, so the sauce is strained and ready to eat, but like I said, I'm gonna bottle half of it raw, and then the other half I'm gonna cook down, but I'm gonna add a little bit of honey as well. But I am gonna take a little sneak peek of the flavor. Wow, always forget how hot Carolina Reapers are. All right, so now time to bottle this one up. Oh no. I have a spicy cutting board for a bit. I have about 9 ounces left to cook. This is a really splashy sauce. It's kind of like a Tabasco consistency, but it packs a punch. So definitely try it before cooking if you're new to this recipe, and then you can kind of decide what you want to do. So I'm gonna throw the rest in a saucepan and cook it for about 10 minutes. This is a smaller batch because it's a half batch. So just keep an eye on it and monitor it till it reaches the consistency you'd like. So this is cooked for about 10 minutes, and you certainly could go longer. And like I said, you can add more pulp back in if you want it thicker. And I also added about a tablespoon of honey to the sauce. And I am gonna bottle this up, and we're gonna try it side by side with the raw hot sauce. And I can't wait to have Calvin come in here and try both of these to see what she likes best.
So what do we have here?
Okay. So this is a fermented Carolina Reaper hot sauce, and one of them is completely raw, and the other one I cooked down and added a little bit of honey. But we can try them on a spoon first. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's try the raw one first.
Try the raw one first? All right.
Whoa. That's super fragrant. I mean, you must have smelled it, but...
Yeah, it is.
Man, fermentation always impresses me. You start off with like water and some vegetables and some salt, and the flavors that emerge and the aroma. It's great. That is so... It smells great. How long did this ferment?
So this was 13 days. You can go longer than that or even shorter. We do 7 days sometimes, but...
It's really thin. I mean... it definitely reminds me of like Tabasco or Cholula or something like that. Like, I even think we need a different spout for this because it's just so thin and splashy. It's like watery.
You don't need much.
Yeah, I mean, I assume. You said Carolina Reaper.
Oh, it's so good. Oh.
It's hot. I can't believe there's not vinegar in this.
I know.
It's so acidic and it's got such a bite to it. Very spicy.
It's very, very spicy. But the great thing about ferments is it kind of mellows out that bitter flavor that you can get. But it's so flavorful. I love this.
Very good.
Very simple. You could make this with Scotch bonnets. It would be great. But
yeah, it's hot, but I don't think it's too hot. I think it's meant to be just dashed a little bit onto the food, and it's got a strong enough flavor to hold up, I think, in those small quantities. I really like it.
I do too. I really do. All right, so this is the cooked sauce. Never actually made this one before, so I added honey and cooked it down. And yeah, This is gonna be a first for you.
Yeah, I will say you can tell it's thicker. It's more opaque. This one's a little more like translucent. This one's more thick.
I think you're gonna be shocked by how different this tastes.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
it's like a totally different sauce. Isn't that like, it's delicious.
That is so good.
I know.
I mean, I have a sweet tooth, but that's really good.
Yeah.
The heat almost comes on a little bit later on this one. I feel like maybe the sweetness sort of mellows out that initial bite, but then it like creeps in and now I'm burning.
Yeah, you're right. It almost creeps in at a different time. It's delicious. It's really, really hot. It's a great way to use Carolina Reapers, though, because if you're growing them in the garden, you can't just throw those on a stir fry. I mean, you could, but, you know. So if you make this hot sauce, you can decide whether you want to cook it down or leave it raw. And let us know in the comments if you do make it and which kind of peppers you use. Whew, it's still burning. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.